And now it's time for Fabulous Filmin' Friends. This week we're going to thrill to and analyze a trio of cult classics from the actor-director pairing of Kurt Russell and John Carpenter from the 80s. Starting with 1981's Escape from New York, starring Mr. Russell, Donald Pleasance, Lee Van Cleef, Ernest Borgnine, Harry Dean Stanton, Adrienne Barbeau, Isaac Hayes, and Season Hubley. On to 1982's The Thing, starring Mr. Russell again, Donald Moffat, Keith David, Richard Dysart, David Clennon, T.K. Carter, Richard Masur, Charles Hallahan, and Wilford Brimley. And finally, finishing off with 1986's Big Trouble in Little China, starring Russell again, Dennis Dunn, Kim Cattrall, James Hong, Donald Lee, Kate Burton, Suzee Pei, and Victor Wong. My two guests are the only pair who would be up for such a comprehensive cinematic showdown. Lit Major and Little Sis, Roseanne Caputi, and actor Funnyman Photobug, Alex Robertson. Alex, warm us up with a bit of Jack Burton's oafish bravado in response to the woman you love admitting her true feelings for you.
I wasn't prepared for that. I had my Donald Pleasance ready to go.
Okay, let's hear your Donald Pleasance.
You're the Duke of New York. Hey, number one. You're the Duke. Hey, number one. There. Now can we move on, please?
Very, very competent. Very competent impersonation, Alex.
I'm sorry. Not that there's anything wrong with Jack Burton. That was an enjoyable performance. But we'll get into that.
Indeed, we will. Before our free-for-all, the synopses. In Escape from New York, ex-soldier and current convict Snake Plissken is forced under the threat of death by government agent Houck to rescue the President of the United States after a group of insurgents caused Air Force One to crash in New York City, which by 1997 has become a walled-off maximum security prison. The Thing catalogs the paranoia, fear, and sheer horror that ensues when a shape-shifting alien invades an American Antarctic research facility. And Big Trouble in Little China follows the mystic, martial arts-laden misadventures of blowhard truck driver Jack Burton, who, on a routine stop in San Francisco's Chinatown, wins a bet over his buddy Wang Chi. In order to collect money from Wang, Jack follows him to the airport to meet Wang's beautiful green-eyed betrothed bride Miao Yin, who is summarily kidnapped by the evil, ancient, supernatural gang lord David Lopan. Lopan, for his part, inhabits a broken-down and decrepit old body and can only move as a spirit in his young and powerful form. In order to attain full strength and a fleshy form, Lopan needs Wang's green-eyed bride to break his century-old curse. With the help of lawyer Gracie Law and a troop of warriors led by magical Egg Shen, Jack and Wang charge into David Lopan's compound to stage a daring rescue. Notice how Big Trouble in Little China's synopsis requires the most setup.
And how?
All right, so first things first, as much as you hate it, Roseanne Caputi, rate them!
Okay. Escape from New York, Big Trouble in Little China, and The Thing.
Wow. Alex, before we get into the whys, rate them.
Me?
Rate them, yes, you.
Yes. Okay. For me, The Thing, Escape from New York, and Big Trouble in Little China. That's my ranking.
And here's my ranking. Big Trouble in Little China, The Thing, Escape from New York.
Okay, it's a varied list.
So we are all mixed and matched here. All right, Roseanne, let's have it. Why? Why is Escape from New York the best?
Again, watching it, it's got the most stuff, I think. It's got Harry Dean Stanton and that cravat that doesn't stop. It's got Adrienne Barbeau's everything. It's got the weirdest president ever of the United States in the history of people playing president of the United States.
He sports a mean blonde wig. I'll give him that.
You bet. And again, maybe it's because I haven't seen The Warriors, but even I just think it's badass and interesting. And Isaac Hayes and his twitch and his weird caravan of cars and just all of it. I think it's super cool. And again, I want you to know I do like The Thing. It's not that I don't. It's just that I think Lee Van Cleef's weird watch and earring and Snake's eye patch. All of it just works. And I like Donald Pleasance just shaving, and the American flag is blurred in the background. And I would say it's the closest thing to content that John Carpenter has in those three.
You mean like subtextual content, as in it actually means something?
It might actually mean something. And I've realized his movies don't have to mean anything. I think they're actually movies that are supposed to be enjoyable and entertaining. They're just not as dumb as things like Running Man. And so I keep looking for meaning, and there might not be. But the point is, they are really cool and well done. And maybe that's just the surprise of it, that you can have something entertaining and potentially meaningless that has so much like genuine swagger and style that I enjoy watching them. I would say each one I would watch again and again.
Yeah. Alex, what do you have to say about this?
Pretty much the same, except I'll apply it to The Thing. Watching The Thing now with new eyes or refreshed eyes, I really think it's a really well-made, cohesive film. And, the first time I saw it was just pure entertainment. And I think, when I saw it, it was on cable. The movie had been dismissed by the critics. I mean, slaughtered by the critics. So everyone just sort of shat on it. So a year later, it shows up on HBO. Probably one of those nights I come home late from work and I'm bored. I watch this movie, and it was just thoroughly entertaining. Watching it again, it's still entertaining, but there's really something there to be said. I did, noticing that idea of paranoia and everything about that movie, from those great tracking shots or whatever that just move through the compound very slowly with that thudding bass. And it's not an overwhelming bass. I mean, it's really right up there with John Williams' The Jaws theme. There's that sort of foreboding, just dun. I mean, it's not dun, but it's a little bit more melodic. But
I love it. I love the soundtrack.
I do. It's so sparse, but it and it fits that movie. I mean, they're in the Antarctic. There's not a whole lot there except a lot of snow, a lot of potential for cabin fever. And even at that one point when we see the camera moving through, and then suddenly, just in the far end of the shot, the dog just peering its head through the door, and stuff's going to go down. But he really does a great job just setting up this mood and the paranoia. For the first time, I mean, really noticing. It's like he really has something to say, whether he was trying to or not. But when we look at the timeline of the movie, it comes out in 1982, right about the same time that AIDS makes its appearance in our world and has a name. When you think about, how do I know you're not infected? How do I know to trust you? There's also that Cold War element too. Yeah. So there's really, it's. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Don't you think some of it's more effective than Alien? Actually, as much as I love Alien, I was thinking, a lot of this stuff is working.
I would agree. I
would agree. His tentacled horror is more disgusting and more of a okay, Alien is really scary and but I do like Alien better overall. But I have to say, as I think about this film, because I did dismiss it as another Alien clone, sort of when I watched it, and I reported on Fabulous Film and Friends Facebook page. I did sort of dismiss it, or I could see why it was dismissed, and I still see why it was dismissed at the time. It does, he has a way of making his films seem a little empty at the end, even if they're not. Anyway, I think The Thing is genuinely horrifying, and I put myself, if I had seen this at 12, I'd have, for sure still had nightmares. I mean, it's a nightmarish film.
Besides that tentacled thing, which is a trip for sure. I'm talking about what Alex is, like the tension and so that sort of cabin fever and how do we know you're not infected? I love that scene with the test.
The blood test.
That blood test scene kicks ass. I was like, okay, this is superior to Alien, I think.
Apparently that was added after the fact.
That scene, I would say
All
No,
right.
no, no. I don't
Yeah,
think the film itself is superior to Alien, but I would say there are certain ways that they capture the paranoia and make it less of a and then there were none kind of vibe
Right.
than Alien does.
Yeah. I'll give it that. I will give it that. I think it's definitely his most skilled film in terms of filmmaking.
I would say
It's a
yes.
really okay.
Yeah.
Alex, maybe I'm changing. Maybe Big Trouble in Little China third. Maybe you're you're right.
Well, my work is through. I'm leaving.
Well, I'm gonna take my
All right, go ahead.
I'm gonna take my position as team leader here to expound on why I just I was down on Big Trouble in Little China for a number of years. I think the last time I saw it didn't blow me away like it used to. But I'm back in. I just love this film. I actually looked for it on Blu-ray yesterday. Unfortunately, it's horribly expensive. So I'm like, oh, damn it. I had so many times to buy it for $5 and I didn't take it. I guess maybe 10 years ago I watched it and I thought maybe, I got down on John Carpenter after Vampires. I just thought, God, he's just the worst. And Village of the Damned, it's like, this is just an old cuss living in Northern California, smoking weed, and he just doesn't give a shit. So that was my feeling on John Carpenter. Like, I hate, like, that Vampires is such a piece of stoner crap that I just sort of hated him. I just hated it. I'd have to see it again to see if I was just judging it harshly.
But you've seen Eyes Wide Shut since, and you've realized a man in his decline can be so much worse.
Yes.
Right. So Vampires set me on this sort of anti-John Carpenter tone. And even They Live. I don't love They Live. When it came out, I just thought, I get what he's doing. But it's so... And then, of course, Escape from L.A. Escape from L.A. is such a piece of crap.
That's inexcusable, okay?
Yeah.
Really
so he was just resting on his laurels making a bunch of crap. Right. So that's sort of got me down on it. But these three films are really solidly made. And, I just like the characters so much in Big Trouble in Little China that I fell in love with the film all over again. Kurt Russell, Kim Cattrall, Dennis Dunn, that poor guy. You talk about a victim of, again, it's all the wrong finger pointing. They finger point about racism now. There's racism then. That guy should have been a bigger star.
Dennis Dunn is so charming and awesome and charismatic and great.
No, that's just silly. Like, why wasn't he a bigger star? Yeah.
No, he's awesome.
Well, like you said.
No, it's just the small-mindedness of people and Hollywood and everybody involved. Like, what? He's a totally charming, good kung fu, all of it. It's all like, this guy should have been a big star.
Well, and the great thing, too, about that movie, when you think about just how much of a visionary or ahead of his time, if I can use that term, John Carpenter was, at least in those days, I think he was one of the first Westerners to deal with the whole wuxia thing. That element of kung fu pre-Bruce Lee,
where the fantasy,
the fantasy and the folktale, which Ang Lee does so wonderfully, and but there was John Carpenter.
Also one of the few white directors
I love about the film more than.
Hold up,
I want to talk.
Gino
to have the Asian lead get the girl. That never happens.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I that's what I was just about to expound on. That his film, and we won't get into soundtracks, I suppose, because they're all basically his. Yeah. And he is a full one-man band deal. I mean, I got to give him credit. And he's good at it.
He grew up in a musical household.
He's
so
good at it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it shows.
But he does not do a stupid, irritating twang, Chinese score for Big Trouble in Little China. He gives it a pulsating synthesizer score. The only thing I think is suspect is the song at the end where you go,
that's 80s all the way, awful. Baby. It is. That is
very catchy in my head as a 6-year-old. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. And if you really want a treat, watch the video that he made for that. John Carpenter.
When I get my Blu-ray set, I'm sure I'll see it.
I'm sure it will be. John Carpenter and the Coupe de Villes. That was the name of the band. But I'm sorry, but
was that Kurt Russell?
No.
On vocals?
No, it's John. Yeah. You wish. No, it was Adrienne Barbeau.
Hell of a bass.
Yeah. It's John Carpenter. It's John Carpenter's voice.
Yeah.
But that song comes off like one of Matt Parker and Trey Stone's parody songs.
Yeah,
this is, what is
Yeah,
it? The montage song. Yeah.
I thought I was reading that his son is like a progressive jazz musician. He and Adrienne Barbeau's son. Yeah, he's the whole
Well,
thing.
like I said, music runs in that family. I mean, he grew up with his father was a musical
Before we go too far afield, I just think as I go through each film, to me it's still the most charming. It's his most charming, funny, lighthearted film, and it works on that Raiders of the Lost Ark, just goofy characters, kind of going through an adventure, and the characters are a lot of fun, and the writing is consistently funny, where he's always throwing curveballs or knuckleballs at us, where I just forgot how much fun it is at the end, where he's like, "See you around, Burton." Never can tell.
Never can tell. Aren't you gonna kiss her?
I would say this is where I get to say Kurt Russell is a national treasure. If only for when "Aren't you gonna kiss her goodbye?" and he says
no.
Nope. Like that's Han Solo shit right there.
That is.
And if John Carpenter had his wits about him, he would get old Kim Cattrall and Kurt Russell back, and they are living in that trailer truck,
Well, you wonder.
and still solving mystical Chinese crimes,
I do have a question because of the way the movie ends. It does leave you with that idea. Were they hoping maybe for a franchise or for a sequel?
I'm sure they were, but it would have been, because it was considered a quote-unquote cult classic. They should have gotten Kim Cattrall back, and you can still do it. That's the thing. They're both good looking in their autumn years, and they both could pull off a movie. And get Dennis Dunn. I'm sure Dennis Dunn hasn't aged a day.
It's mostly the same.
Yeah.
Little older.
And James Hong.
Looks like Dennis
James
Dunn.
Hong always looks the same.
Yeah, right. To think they put old age makeup him on in Blade Runner, like, it's so funny. He's like, didn't need it. He
didn't need it. He just, I will say this about really one of the best parts that I got out of Big Trouble is that little twist where the supposed hero of the movie is a buffoon.
Yeah.
It's Dennis Dunn. See, I never really saw it, but this is the first time.
The hero. I mean,
I always got that from the very first clip I saw on Entertainment Tonight, when Kurt Russell gets his gun jammed, and he's like, "Ha!" Because they were always showing that clip, like, when it came out, and so I knew that's what I was in for. But I always loved the lines. Are you ready, Jack? Ha! I was born ready. I mean, all the sort of undercut lines are funny. But he pulls every time they say something. Hey, I got this big gun for you, so I'll make you feel like Dirty Cherry or something. No thanks. They're not funny lines, but Kurt Russell makes it really funny. I mean, because the setup is always funny. Like, I'm just feeling kind of invincible.
I love that part. And it's like, is that here? Like, that whole part is great, but I just think about his, like, racial differences aside, as Californians. He's talking and when they're making that ridiculous toast to America, these colors don't run. Such a feather on that, whatever. I was like, that is hilarious.
The whole, I think W.D. Richter, when he got the script, apparently he rewrote it from start to finish. I mean, he took the concept and rewrote it. I think was just having a lot of fun with it. And the script is a lot of fun, and I'm like, I still enjoy it the most of the three. And again, the thing I just think is the best filmmaking of John Carpenter's career. I mean, there's a lot of sloppiness in or Big Trouble in Little China. There's a lot of sort of, I don't think the fights are all that interesting. Overall, he's not good at doing a kung fu movie. I don't think. I mean, there's no lyrical beauty. It's all sort of overdone, in my opinion. But I don't care. The characters pull off that movie. And then Escape from New York, I like it better than I ever have. I've just never been a huge fan of it. I find it all sort of pointless. And I get what he's going at now. I get the New York, the fear.
This Watergate allegory.
I got it. There's a lot of it's very timely today, especially as New York crumbles back into sort of decay, and especially with the insurgents, as Alex pointed out. And there's all these things that are are like, but he just stepped on that by accident. That's how I think. It's just he just sort of lucked into it.
Well, he did.
I think he's just at the time. What was in everybody's head was New York. New York is just this, going to be this hellhole because it was a hellhole. But it is, to me, taking it like The Thing takes a page from Aliens. This takes a page from The Warriors. That's all. It's a running the gauntlet movie.
That's
and
fine.
Big Trouble in Little China is its own thing. That's what it's its own thing. And he was the only guy who believed in an Asian cast. And even the Golden Child is just a sort of a showcase for Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
But this movie really is a showcase for all these good Asian actors, and nobody ever did that.
No.
Who are allowed to be funny and not stereotypical, like who plays Egg, the famous
Victor Wong. Yeah,
Victor Wong. No. Anyway, I'm just like, God, I always forget how truly funny he is.
But I like the Major D with his tie. I'm a Major D and so much more.
And so much more. And what an 80s cheese he is, and not just an Asian stereotype.
And he's still a hero, which I love. It's all done in good taste, and there's nothing embarrassing about it. And he didn't relegate anybody to the stereotypes, which I love about the film. Like, this movie's still as badass as ever. I mean, Dennis Dunn and Victor Wong and James Hong and everybody's really, really good in it. And Suzee Pei, she's beautiful as ever. Like, it's a shame the movie didn't catch on. I mean, and they really torpedoed it. I remember when it came out, it opened and they didn't put anything behind it. And I think that's probably just the pressure of the Golden Child coming. They just wanted to get it out.
That was the unfortunate thing.
I think they just got it out and snuck it in, and and I was always a big champion of that film because I liked it from the get-go. But it's like Joe.
You can't attest to that. But I wish you would say, I have to say, I don't think. Okay, so no. Escape from New York is a running the gauntlet movie. I do think, though, that what John Carpenter brings to things is, and in this way, he is like Steven Soderbergh. He does bring this kick-ass cast. He does bring these details of things that are more interesting and well done than I think a lot of other things.
Yeah, those three especially. Because you look at Starman, you look at the movies that I don't like. He, when he's phoning it in, he phones it in.
Yeah.
Okay. But we could even add Halloween to this list.
Sure. Halloween's a classic. I just don't like the genre. Sorry. That's
I'm
why I don't
with you on that.
I'll have to get people on who care about the genre. I don't care about slasher films. I
don't care about the genre, but the reason it's the best of the genre is because of him.
Sure.
Yeah. But again,
didn't he start the genre?
He did.
No. I think it's the best of that genre. I've always thought Halloween's the best. Bar none.
Yeah, but what else was there before Halloween?
Well, you had there was Silent Night, Deadly Night. I think it was.
Was that before? That was before Halloween.
That was like 74, 75.
Oh,
I think.
What about House at the End of the whatever? That freaky
that was,
70. Isn't that 70?
Yes. But even Texas Chainsaw Massacre and all of these.
Well,
they're not the same as what Halloween was. Like teenage girls, teenage kids getting slaughtered because they're having sex.
Because they're having sex, right?
We are talking slasher movies, and interestingly, in that genre, John Carpenter's film has the most weight.
Yeah,
I would.
But I hate
to see it again. I'd have to see it again, but I just don't care about them. So that's my thing.
But all I'm saying is he does do things specifically and really well. And I at least at that phase in his career, I didn't see any of his later stuff. I didn't care. I didn't see plenty of his early stuff until more recently. So I don't know. There's something about him as a filmmaker that is undeniable. As a storyteller.
For sure. And as a filmmaker and somebody who can set up a shot. I mean,
definitely. Even New York being that big ass
Escape from New York. Escape from New York, I hadn't seen it at least in 20, 30 years. and I remember every shot from it. Like, I still remember him landing on the World Trade Center, as goofy as it looks.
Sure.
No, but it works.
Like,
They pull it off. Yeah.
It works.
Like,
I
still remember the president killing Isaac Hayes.
He gets the right people. Well, okay. Well, somebody who, before we move on from Escape from New York, somebody who deserves a little extra mention is Frank Doubleday as Romero. He's the little toady right-hand man with the crazy hair.
Right.
Frank Doubleday, yeah.
I didn't
such a small part.
I didn't list him in the cast. I'm sorry, Alex.
Yeah, he just passed away a few years ago.
Yeah, he's pretty good. I thought it was Steve Buscemi at first.
No, but he has that look. Yeah. Touch me, he dies.
Yeah.
You're not out of here, he dies.
Yeah.
He had those little moments. I mean, but he got his start with John Carpenter with Assault on Precinct 13. And everybody remembers him as the guy who mercilessly shoots Kim Richards in the chest. Little Kim Richards, when she was, right after Nanny and the Professor, a few years after that, when she goes to get her ice cream corrected or whatever. I don't know if you've seen the movie.
I've never seen it.
It's basically Rio Bravo is what it is, instead of a Ford, it's Precinct 13. Yeah. John Carpenter said, I wanted to make a movie in it, like an urban landscape. So, and you've got people that normally wouldn't be on the same side fighting along with each other to, this horde of bad guys. And one of them is Frank Doubleday, who I don't even think speaks in the film, but he just has that chiseled face and that cold stare. And everybody remembers that scene early in the movie when he drops poor little Kim Richards. It was shocking. I mean, I saw that in 1979 on cable. Even then, you're like, whoa, who has the audacity to do that? And not that you're like, oh, it's so cool. It's just shocking. But it just really sets the tone for that story,
Well, we'll talk about this film.
We'll talk about it later, but
we can review the Ethan Hawke version in comparison.
Oh, I don't know if I want to.
A movie I like. But can I just say, even though it seems like women are not the hugest part of his movie and Adrienne Barbeau's boobs are out and the whole deal, at the end, though, I do feel like she does I think she's an interesting character. I have to say, like when he gets the gun and she's shooting Isaac Hayes, if we're talking about different parts, the bridge part should be gimmicky and it's still sort of an offbeat part.
Yeah. And her death is actually pretty shocking.
It is. We're just thinking about shocking deaths. I'm like, damn, and it wasn't overwrought or anything. I was like, that was a pretty cool way for her to go.
Yeah.
Well, and especially when she has the opportunity to get away, she won't. She chooses to stay. Because
to stay and,
she really was in love with Brain.
Yeah. I love that Brain.
Yeah.
Who can't love Harry Dean Stanton?
Harry Dean Stanton. Yes.
Come on. Harry Dean Stanton on all thrusters is best. Let's face it.
All right. Well, we summed, okay. We've talked about the rating, and we've sort of touched on what's great about each film, but what does each film really mean? Alex Robertson. Go through the list. You said AIDS.
Again,
so it's an AIDS allegory.
You could probably argue that because of the timeline. I mean, it came out in 1982, but you could also argue the whole Cold War thing. But ultimately, it's about paranoia.
But I'm not seeing the Cold War thing. Where are you getting the Cold War thing? Because they're in the Arctic?
Because somebody told me.
It's cold.
It's cold.
The war with the alien is cold. I'm not trying to make fun of you, but where
you are.
Tell me about because I just don't see a Cold War analogy in that film.
Because if
maybe I don't know.
Wait. Hold on. Let Alex finish.
Maybe I talk myself into a corner here, but that's something I got in my little mind.
Well, what scene? What aspect is Cold War? Because I can see the AIDS allegory for sure, and I can see the I guess the mistrust.
Well,
because I did think of. I will say this. I did think of Body Snatchers. I did think of Body Snatchers while I was watching the film.
Well, yeah. No, but it was maybe that was it. Just the idea. Again, the paranoia, the fear. Who do you trust?
Okay.
And maybe John Carpenter was somebody, I mean, I don't know what year he was born, but I imagine he went through the Red Scare. He understood it, the idea of like, who do you trust, watching the old PSAs or watching Jack, what's his name, Mr. Dragnet. It could be your friend. It could be your neighbor.
Okay.
And who knows, maybe, the little bit with the Norwegians, there's that foreign element, how he's seemingly attacking the compound at the beginning. We don't know why, but he's trying to shoot this dog, and Donald Moffat, before anything can be done, he shoots the one guy who accidentally kills his partner by dropping the grenade, which is comical. But again, John Carpenter does seem to have that way of taking, these ridiculous things and giving a little bit of weight.
Yeah.
But because you get it, this guy's in a panic, and as the movie progresses, you understand, why is he shooting at that dog? It's not the dog, it's what's in the dog. It's what's...
Yeah, I actually thought I was watching some sort of man versus nature allegory about the cruelty of humans, and then it turns that on its ear. And it's they had plenty of good reason to shoot that dog.
And remember that just again that beginning where it's just we see the helicopter coming. What the heck was that?
That was ghastly. I thought the alien was on us.
The alien was on us. Yeah. Check yourself. Check your blood. You see the dog running, and it looks just like, wow, what a friendly pooch. And this helicopter chasing after, an unusual start to a movie.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a horror movie, but it's like, well, this is different.
Yeah.
But it does suck you in.
Yeah. All right, Roseanne, what were you going to say? How is it a Cold War allegory?
No, I was just trying to think of leaving things alone and freezing them solves the problem. Leaving things alone and freezing them exacerbates the problem. And then heating them up is the only way to get rid of them. I do feel like there is this sort of double bind that is the Cold War that could potentially be seen as the thing. That's all.
It's possible. Maybe even with Wilford Brimley's...
That's deep, man.
It is. But you know what? These movies do have some depth, I think. You can't dismiss it as just a horror movie.
Yeah, he is firmly rooted in anti-authoritarianism. And I do think that is something cool with him. Like, he's not, at least these three movies are not corporate bills. Feel it. And you feel it in him as a filmmaker. And I do think that adds to a subversive element that lends meaning to his films.
Well, he certainly handled it much better in those days because he is a bit heavy-handed.
Yeah,
with They Live, it's just
once you see They Live, or
it's like
over.
I got an idea.
It's just like, that's the issue. Escape from LA is what you think Escape from. I always say Karate Kid 2 is what I thought Karate Kid 1 would be, and Escape from LA is what you think Escape from New York is going to be. Just
it's
jokey
got the
and
silliness
stupid.
and spades.
Yeah,
the stupid thing with Peter Fonda.
It's just awful. It's just awful. It's
Steve
like
Buscemi wasted.
Yeah.
Even Pam Grier wasted.
Yeah.
What a
For
sad.
sure. It's just a crap movie,
I'm not arguing.
Yeah. So that I will say that's the thing about Escape from New York and The Thing and all three is they take their premises seriously enough to where they're memorable. That's the main thing about it. Well, what do you get out? Is there any meaning to Big Trouble? Or is it just a bunch of goofy crap? Well, I think I've said it. I think why I like the film is because he let Chinese people be Chinese people without resorting to stereotypes. And I think that would there's stories to be mined in this culture that Hollywood never minds. And that's what I think that was the strength of that film.
Actually, that's a good point. Now, look, you grew up in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Right? So do you have any memories of Chinatown? Because Chinatown always has, even from an outsider like me, it has that exotic,
there is something to be said, even if you get near it. I mean, there are the smells. There's a definite smell. The fish markets. And it feels like you're in another land.
For sure.
We have an Asian market in the middle of Folsom, and you walk into that thing, and you're not in Folsom anymore.
Yeah.
You are in Chinatown. I mean, it's, you've got the ducks hanging from the racks with the roasted duck or whatever else, the fish market, and it's like there is really something.
I don't think
I don't want to say alien.
I would say that's a weakness of his film, though.
Which is what?
That it's because it shoots it in L.A.
No.
So it doesn't seem like it's got one or two shots actually shot in San Francisco's Chinatown. The rest is all L.A. And it's like, well, we don't call it Little China anyway, so it just seems kind of like, why didn't he make it about L.A.'s Chinatown? For one thing, it's Chinatown, Jake. I mean, there's a connection there. I think there's so much of it shot in L.A. It's almost stupid. Like it would usually, that galls me, but because the film is so funny, I don't care. But I wish it wasn't about San Francisco. I wish it just was LA's.
Except that Egg does have that line about, they built the railroad and then they came here and
looking for
and built this. And I think, that's not for nothing.
But give me some LA history, and I'm sure it's just as interesting. Okay.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah. But, so it's one of those touches that they did it because it looks good on a poster. But he shoots it in L.A. and it seems like L.A. and it might as well be L.A.'s Chinatown. And you can say L.A.'s Chinatowns have the caverns and the gas, the black oil. I thought that's interesting. Long before Ridley Scott, we got black goo. And he's like the source of life, the source of life. And I thought that's pretty cool. But I just I'd say that isn't exploited enough, but what I also like, conversely, because my mom taking me down to Chinatown as a little kid was a shock, because you're seeing 1,000-year-old eggs and bugs, snails, and everything in the windows, and you're like, well, what? It is completely alien to a white kid, that's for sure. Yeah. I think that any kid, until they're used to it, I think it is probably shocking for all Chinese kids. We'd have to talk to one, but I'm sure it's just as shocking. But anyway, it's still like, it is another world. I don't think that's the issue, though. I think Kurt Russell, what I love about it is he just drops off the food or whatever he drops off, and he's part of their world.
Chickens. He's at ease.
And I like that. I just
there's
think
a
that's
mutual
the coolest,
respect.
I think that's the coolest part of the film, is that he's just there and he's gambling with them, and
what's the name of his truck? The Pork
Chop Express.
The Pork Chop Express. Yeah.
So obviously, I guess he's delivering pork. They never show it.
I don't know.
No, he is. They do show it. They show them taking the pig off of his truck.
Okay.
I guess so.
Yeah, they do.
Right, yeah. and his costume is a bit of East meets West, whatever those crazy boots he wears.
Tank top, those boots, that poncho, forget it.
But it seems like the tank top has like Asian motif. Yeah, it's got So there's that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I fair enough. I forgot that where was I? I was watching the film. I didn't notice. I was thinking, does he deliver the pork? I must have closed my eyes and looked at my watch. I didn't see that shot.
Well, take the pig from the truck.
Okay, well, he delivers pigs. God bless him.
Good on you.
But I just think it's funny that he goes to I just think the whole thing's funny that he goes to the airport.
Just to make sure that he collects.
Yeah, it's just a funny conceit that he just follows him in his semi-truck. Like, again, if you know anybody, even in the 80s, to take a semi to the San Francisco airport's pretty funny. Just as an idea, and I imagine the LA airport would be just as funny. So it's like, well, what the heck? Why would he go to that trouble?
Well, I like the fact that he does it for the money because he doesn't trust him and everything like that. But by the time they're at the airport, they're just friends who are like checking out women and that kind of thing. Like their relationship is really delightful. Like I love their film.
Oh, stay away from her, Jack. She's trouble.
Yeah, she's trouble.
How do you know this? It's just funny. And it's just wacky. It's just a goofy, sort of whimsical movie, and I like it for that. I like all the you can question it, but there's no point. You know.
No.
Wait a second. Do we compare then Kurt Russell versus Kurt Russell versus Kurt Russell?
We certainly
because I
do.
think we should.
Okay.
We certainly do. So we might as well segue into that. So obviously we all have our favorites, and they have to be favorites because of the Kurt Russell performance. So you like Snake Plissken, Roseanne?
I love Snake Plissken. Forget it.
But okay,
I
so
do-
he's
okay,
doing,
so-
it's a tug of war between
It's a Clint
John
Eastwood.
Wayne,
Okay.
Clint Eastwood, and Kurt Russell. So
Yeah.
Snake Plissken is doing Clint Eastwood.
I like the Clint Eastwood. Great look, drummer. I just think it's hysterically wonderful. And I think I like so while it should be gimmicky that he's doing this kind of Clint Eastwood hushed voice, especially along Lee Van Cleef, I think it works beautifully. I think they have an interesting chemistry. I enjoy seeing them together. And I just think every interaction he has is interesting. I feel like he's like that in The Thing, but I feel like it's amped up a little bit in Escape from New York.
Well, I think the strength of the film is you see him doing Clint Eastwood, and you see Lee Van Cleef, and you make the connection, but it still seems like its own thing, and that
absolutely does.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's good about that film is it takes the film there are little nods to the absurdity of it all, but it does what every film should do, which is it takes its story seriously, which is why the film lasted, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. And also because of that, Kurt Russell knows he's doing Clint Eastwood, and he still takes his own performance seriously. Even in those pants, even with that zippered tank top, doesn't matter. He's taking himself seriously, and so it works. Yeah. And so again, I do like him as an anti-authority figure who, I mean, that's an old trope, obviously, like former military, blah, 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 except he's pulling it off like gangbusters in a way that genuinely does make it seem new. I don't know if it's those pants,
it's the feathered hair and the eye patch. For me, it's the feathered hair and the eye patch.
Feathered hair and the eye patch are for real. Again, we could get deeper into the looks of every movie. That dude has a nose ring in The Thing. Like, what the hell? And it still works. There's so many weird looks in John Carpenter's movies. Anyway, Kurt Russell in Escape from New York is badass. I have the shirt with him and that eye patch, and he's the best. And Lee Van Cleef is so good that together they're super cool.
All right, Alex, you have to be the one to explain it. Explain that sombrero. How does a man get away with that sombrero in a horror film?
Because he's R.J. McCready. And he can wear whatever the hell he wants. And again, I think it's going back to what Roseanne says. Maybe it's just a testament to Kurt Russell, the actor. And people maybe don't pay attention to that, but he owns it. He owns it. Because the sombrero never becomes, it's funny. But I buy it, and they don't beat it into the ground with, hey, dumb sombrero, stupid sombrero. He just puts it on when the need, when the time comes, he puts that damn thing on.
With those damn ass goggles.
Those goggles, which are very, cold weather. I mean, you when you realize, they've got some nice details going there. So, I think the thing I like about Kurt Russell's performance in The Thing is, compared to Snake Plissken, they could almost be cut from the same, not just because it's Kurt Russell, but Snake Plissken is still in the battle. He's a soldier, and he's always going to be a soldier. And I think from what I read, Kurt Russell preparing for R.J. McCready, he was a pilot in Vietnam, but he suffers PTSD, and he wants to get himself as far away. And he likes that. He is a misanthrope. He has, he's got his own cabin out there, where he plays chess. And if he doesn't go well, he, pours his whiskey down the computer. Yeah. And Adrienne Barbeau is the voice of the computer. But, he's a guy that's, thrust into these circumstances, not because he wants to, but because he just is. And he is a guy that, I'm going to do whatever I can to survive.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes. And you know, thought that was a key element when he shoots Richard Masur. And he does it out of self-defense, but you know, that little twist when they find out that he's human, when Keith David or David, which one is he? Keith David or David? Keith? Thank you. I always get those two. Is he the white guy or the black guy? Which one is he?
He's the black guy, yeah.
Right,
David
right.
Keith. It's confusing.
Right. Well, he's human. That makes you a murderer. You know, and that's, you know, and again, what can, you know, not enough said about his performance. That was really one of his first big performances on screen.
And he's a real adversary. I mean, they have a really complex relationship in that movie.
He is. He's got some gravitas, that guy.
Yeah.
Well, he always did. I mean, but again, I guess was that his first movie? I don't think it's his first movie.
Well, I think it was his first starring role. Where
I don't feel like enough is said about him in that movie, though. I have to say.
No, and it should be, because he's a key element to that movie.
Yeah, for sure.
No, he is. He is. And
I think it was.
He and Kurt Russell do have great interplay for sure.
Yeah.
And I would definitely say that if you compare him to Yaphet Kotto and Alien, he matters way more.
Way more. Yeah.
Though there's that Harry Dean Stanton connection.
Well, only because Harry Dean Stanton just happens to be in every movie ever.
ever. Thus proving Roger Ebert right. With the exception of Pretty in Pink. What was it? Pretty in Pink or whatever.
Yeah.
Where his theory was tested. Anyway, no, back to the sombrero. I just think this is a guy that just doesn't care. I mean, he only cares about one person, and that's R.J. McCready.
Yeah.
And except his leadership skills
He does.
The things he's standing for are logical.
They are.
Yeah.
You know.
No, they are. And it's like, but he does it almost as if he doesn't want to be, but it's like, but he has to be.
Yeah.
But you know, I think maybe
that's different from Snake. Like, I don't think Snake is a leader at all, and I do think McCready is.
He's just a soldier. He's just he's designed
he's like
for one
almost
thing.
A mercenary. Yeah.
What was that? Yeah, god awful movie with Kurt Russell, Soldier, I think it was, where he was which was Again, though, I'll watch Kurt Russell in a bad movie. I you know, he's always making good choices, you know.
All right, so what do I get to explain about? We've already gone over the clothes in Big Trouble, so there's nothing more to say. I can't explain it.
Well, okay. How about
I can't explain it, but it's great. It's a great California bum outfit.
Yes,
and it's funny, you know, like when it does define his sort of stupidity and his, you know, he's a little flabby in the film, which I find funny. You know, in Big Trouble in Little China, he's a little buff, but he's not perfectly. You know, he's not chiseled like Stallone, so he looks a little off. Like I think the entire character is just a little. You know, Steve Martin is kind of a handsome guy, but there's something doofusy about him. It's the same thing in Big Trouble in Little China that Kurt Russell pulls off, you know, like he's supposed to look like a hero, but not quite.
But he's the guy that in his mind,
yeah, for sure,
I'm the hero. I'm that guy. Just every statement he makes, every proclamation, every whatever, you know, even down to when he shoots the gun in the air.
Yeah.
Like a buffoon gets knocked, just to see him laying there as there's this fight going on all around him.
Except I will say his friendship with Dennis Dunn does make him heroic, like, because he won't leave him.
Right.
You know?
No, he's loyal, and that's the thing. He may not trust. He doesn't trust about the money, but he's loyal to him in a really touching way. Yeah.
I like that.
When they rescue the women and they're on the bus and they realize that and Gracie are still missing. They got to go back into the bowels.
Yeah.
And you know, the great thing too is even for all of his bluster and bravado and wind, is he still has skills.
Yeah.
You know, that great thing when he throws the knife and it hits the gong, like, oh. But then when
it's all in the reflexes.
All in the reflexes. Perfect.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I've always thought that, you know, the thing about movies that always annoys me is when they have big, strong guys who are doofuses and can't fight. You can have stupid people who can do things.
Yeah.
Who are still funny characters, and maybe the fact that they can fight is kind of funny. Like Hollywood. The problem is most directors are so linear in their thinking that they always just sort of like, oh, well, he's a coward or he's an oaf, so let's make him do stupid things all the time. And that's what's good about this movie is he's 50-50.
Exactly.
He's tough, he's brave, but he's also clumsy and dumb.
But a guy like him doesn't get to where he is in life without having something,
Yeah.
Right. He definitely has some stuff.
He's a skilled truck driver. I don't think I could throw a semi into an alleyway in Chinatown.
And
throw it into a
tremendous
spin.
Sandwich eater.
Yeah.
He eats really well in that. So the sandwich, the cheek full of dumpling while gesturing. Kurt Russell has a lot of magic in that movie.
Yeah, well, let's get into the supporting cast. I guess we can just sort of expound on our three favorites here.
Okay.
Each of our personal favorites. So, Alex, let's start with you. We've already started on it, but you're going to go. Keith David is your favorite supporting cast.
Keith David.
You've got an array. Let's not. I said you've got Keith David.
Yes.
Who else? Other highlights, and of course I'm going to put one right in your mouth. Wilford Brimley.
I just said it.
Oh, I didn't hear you.
Yeah, that's because you're old. Just like him.
Just like
no.
Wilford Brimley was 40 when he made that movie.
40. Thank God they shaved his mustache so he looked a little younger. Boy, what an un-Wilford Brimley performance, and it was still Wilford Brimley, but yeah, he was like the wild card in that group. I mean, he's the guy that seems to get it in the beginning. I didn't realize why he's destroying everything in the beginning because when he's looking on the computer and what happens if this organism is able to get to the mainland, what are we looking at in terms of total annihilation or whatever of the human race? So it's befitting for him to start, destroying the radios, destroying the helicopter. And what's the deal? I don't know why. It is again with John. Maybe it's a John Carpenter thing, but it's a funny thing when he's locked up in the shack and they go to check on him, and he's like, "I'm doing better now. I want to come back." And there's that hangman's noose.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things. It's like, and you buy it. It's like, we don't know about this guy.
Right.
We just don't know about. And again, credit to Wilford Brimley. Great performance. He never.
Is he alive at the end? Is he a duplicate?
Well, I think he was absorbed. I mean, the way he manhandles Moffat, I don't think, I think he was, and, he was invaded by the alien.
Roseanne, when you do that, it's super creepy. It sounds like the alien.
I'm sorry.
I'm just saying, when you do it, it keeps scaring me. Alex, does it scare you? It's jarring.
I apologize.
I think of Donald Sutherland at the end of Body Snatchers.
My deepest apologies, gentlemen.
It's okay. So there's Wilford Brimley, there's Keith David.
What do you think of Donald Moffat in the film?
I enjoyed him, because especially...
Again, what's interesting about that performance is it's not what he's known for.
No, it's not. He's kind of a buffoon in his own way.
Yeah.
I mean, he's...
But Donald Moffat usually, if you think about him, he was always the dense or the mean guy.
Yeah.
In this movie, he's just sort of a captain who doesn't quite earn his stripes.
He doesn't quite, he hasn't really earned his stripes. But again, he gets to earn his moment when he's tied to the chair and he goes, I don't expect to sit here. Tied to this fucking chair. Yeah. I mean, that to me is a great moment, and it's never overdone. It's Donald.
It's the only time I've seen Donald Moffat use the F word.
Yes,
I think in cinema.
I think so, and he makes it work.
Yeah.
David Clennon is Palmer. He got that character down.
Yeah.
There's the stoner guy. Of course, one of the best lines is when he sees the head of Charles Hallahan with spider legs walking away. You gotta be fucking kidding me. And apparently, what was it? I don't know who it was, but you were just going, apparently when they shot that scene, you were just going to see the head walking away and you would hear him say that. But somebody suggested, you got to put the camera on him because it's a much better moment if we do that. Yeah. Just the incredulity of like, what is going on here? And it works. Right. Again, it's not a gimmick. It really works.
It's a great sentiment. And if I am going to compare it to Alien, there's nothing that rivals it in Alien.
No.
It's a very human.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it's just, and he's pretty much established it already, and he's got his little weed out, and he's like, "Hey, man, I'm telling you, man, he's the guy. I'm telling you, man, I've been reading about this stuff out there. The little men in spaceships coming around, man. The guy that we all dismiss." But, right up here at the center of the earth, there's a hole, and that's where the aliens come out of, man. We knew guys like that, and he was that guy. Yeah. He just happened to be good at whatever he was that they kept him there.
All right, who's your favorite?
My favorite in terms of
the cast of sweaty men.
Oh my gosh, so many good sweaty men. Strike that last statement.
No, you keep that.
Let's see. Who is it gonna be? Boy, oh boy. I'll probably have to, Keith David. Yeah. I mean, it's a toughie, but Keith David. Yeah.
Roseanne?
He's got the grounding.
We'll stay on The Thing. Who's your favorite?
Of The Thing?
Yeah.
I like, what's his name? Clennon?
Okay, David Clennon.
Yeah, David Clennon.
Okay, I love Keith David, don't get me wrong, but David Clennon was like, I've seen that guy in a million things, and he's genuinely bringing something to this that I really enjoyed. And I always love this idea that there are groups of people who are good at their jobs who are also stoners and dumb shits. And one thing I always love about The Big Lebowski is, what if a stoner got in that situation? So I love the idea of this particular guy getting in this situation.
Yeah.
And when you look at his resume, it's very impressive.
Oh, yeah.
He's in everything. Yeah.
He's still going at
it. And he's a classically trained actor. Went to Yale.
He's great. Yeah.
He doesn't have the boorish manners of a Yale.
Yeah. All right, Roseanne, but let's shift gears a bit now on you. So, Escape from New York. Give us, that's a pretty heavy bench.
That's heavy. Yeah.
It's a heavy bench. Stacked. So, who do you got? You got Donald Pleasance. You got Ernest Borgnine. I don't like Ernest Borgnine.
I don't like Ernest Borgnine.
Not enough. He doesn't get enough. He doesn't get enough.
No, also he's in that Ernest Borgnine.
And what he does have, he's stupid.
Like.
He's in the Dominic Santini mode.
For sure.
Yeah.
So that's the mode of Ernest Borgnine where I'm just like, Borgnine, enough.
Yeah. I think I know you're going to say. You're going to say Lee Van Cleef, aren't you?
I love Lee Van Cleef. Straight down the line, no matter what. But it just so happens that he's super cool in that movie. And I know he has that knee injury, and he makes it work with his weird limp makes him seem so competent and tough. It's like, I just think he's super cool. And again, he's my 100% favorite in that movie. I mean, almost rivaling Kurt Russell. And that's in a movie where I love Harry Dean Stanton. I think Adrienne Barbeau is great. I love, what's her name? Kurt Russell's wife at the time. She's weird.
Season Hubley.
Yeah, she's great. Her 2 seconds is really good. And again, Isaac Hayes, all those, everyone's great. But
Isaac Hayes, I don't think gets enough to do.
He doesn't get enough to do, but I do like his presence. His presence is
does have
that's his presence. That's what I mean, though. His presence justifies a bigger part.
It does. Just like you mentioned, his little twitch. I love that twitch.
His twitch is interesting.
That's
him just shooting at Donald Pleasance in this really chaotic way. I'm like, this is cool. It's a weird.
Yeah, I feel like his character needed a little more time.
Yeah,
I think he could have used more time, and I think he would have done good things with it.
Yeah.
He was already.
Yeah, like he's almost. It's not that he's an afterthought, but it's like this big actor and a big idea. and he's scary and all the things, and you don't get to see him shine. He doesn't get it. He does, he needs a monologue or something with Snake Plissken. I do find it, real quick before we move forward, a little backwards parenthetical. I feel it is funny the way everybody knows who Snake Plissken is.
Yeah.
I think that's great. And it should be a gag that doesn't work, that everyone knows him and thinks he's dead. And yet every time, especially because of Kurt Russell's sort of just face with it, it's funny every time. So I enjoy it. And I really enjoy, Harry Dean Stanton's, the weasel who betrayed him. I like the fact that that's a thing. But anyway, no, it's the best that everyone knows who he is. Anyway, so it's Lee Van Cleef.
All right. Well, I have to weigh in on both. I'm going to go Wilford Brimley and boy, I'm going to say I like Season Hubley of the supporting cast. I like her the best.
Just for sheer
weirdness, sheer like feeling like I'm in the 80s, the punk scene.
Yeah.
The whole thing just seems like it throws me back, but it's also like she does seem like an alien. And I like her. I like her scene the best in terms of like that's a memorable scene for sure.
Well, you know who else? I mean, I know this is a small thing, but in Escape from New York, again, one of those blink and you miss him, but he still does a memorable scene. Is what's his name, Buck Flower, who seems to have had a lock on playing the bums. He was the bum in Back to the Future. But yeah, I'm the president. That's right. I woke
He's
up
also in Fisher King.
He was.
Yeah.
We need a bum. Who's available? Is Buck Flower available?
Well, I
or
think
Buck
that was
Fowler?
the joke, wasn't it?
I must have been, but he was Red the Bum.
Well,
gosh.
Dean Cundy is the cinematographer in both films, and then remember, little fun fact: Kurt Russell's costume, and we haven't got to costumes or technical stuff, but Kurt Russell's dork costume in Big Trouble in Little China is his exact costume from Used Cars, directed by Robert Zemeckis, shot by Dean Cundy.
Interesting.
So
okay.
I think they're all palling around with each other,
There's
or
a
they
palling
know
around.
each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. If you look at Buck Fowler's resume, every other role is like drifter, tramp, bum. He had it down, man. He had it down. Boy, he went way back. He just passed away a few years ago. But no, I'm the president. That's right. It's like, I know people like that.
Start
That
with the
could
man in
be
the mirror.
That could be me.
Okay, well, I will expound on the supporting. We've pretty much done it already, but I'll just reinforce how much I love Dennis Dunn. We all love Dennis Dunn. I also love Kim Cattrall in it, though. I think it's my favorite Kim Cattrall performance, and I don't have a lot of those. I think she was very charming and cute and funny and winsome in that film. I also special mention. I've said Dennis Lee, but also who's the actress? I'll have to refer to my notes. Kate Burton. I like Kate Burton a lot. You mean the David Lopan? I like her. Her line deliveries are really funny. So,
Her whole addition to that film is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Now, do you think a lot of that is Richter? W.D. Richter? Do you think?
It had to be.
Yeah,
it had to be.
I mean, it's got the Buckaroo Banzai.
It's got the Buckaroo Banzai dialogue for sure.
Yeah, it does.
Sure.
Those great.
He's in this phase where, like, he got out of it. He does Late for Dinner, and it's not there, and so it's not Invasion of the Body Snatchers. That's just a good screenplay.
Yeah,
But suddenly with Buckaroo Banzai and Big Trouble in Little China, he's doing like this offbeat sort of.
But they're offbeat worlds
they're
in both
knuckleballs.
cases. Yeah,
knuckleballs. They're but good knuckleballs, like effective.
Yes,
they're working.
I like it.
But yeah, I think they're just they're like weird lines, and they're delivered. There's always this sort of, this should be either stupid or it should be funnier. But the fact that they're not hilariously funny lines makes them better in a way.
Yeah.
Just him going, "God bless you, Wang." It's a funny line. Yeah. No, it's all good. But yeah, Dennis Dunn for sure. I mean, he's pretty much the hero of the movie. In a perfect world, he would have been the hero of the movie, like the top billed actor in the movie. But it is what it is. But he certainly is the best, and I wish he had gone on to bigger. I don't even know what he did after. He didn't get any. Did he get? Alex, look it up real quick. What did he get after?
1,000 Pieces of Gold. He was in the Last Emperor, and and again, 1,000 Pieces of Gold was the movie. I was like, yes, this guy again, and that was the last time I ever saw him.
Because I think he was in The Year of the Dragon. Speaking of another Chinatown type movie,
right,
that's where they saw him.
I've never finished that movie.
It's a hard one. It's a hard one.
Couldn't finish it.
Hey,
but
Michael,
again,
whatever his name was, the
Cimino.
director.
It was just
Cimino,
It was streaming, and I just wasn't into it. I couldn't finish it.
But it's funny too because apparently they wanted, no surprise there, and I guess they initially wanted Jackie Chan.
Yeah, I read that.
But they knew. I think he's going to have trouble with the language. And Jackie Chan, does have a hard to follow accent. No offense.
Well, and he was
charming as he is. Jackie Chan doesn't seem like he's from Chinatown. Jackie Chan also isn't nearly as charming and wonderful. I don't know.
Dennis Dunn seems like he's from San Francisco's Chinatown.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah. He's from Stockton, so there you go.
That's why his speech to the here's to the red, white, and blue speech is so funny. Yeah, because that would have been completely from left field with Jackie Chan.
So let's see what else.
But the two of them getting that moment of American joy and patriotism just slays me.
It is. It's great. Yeah. I'm good. Well, for sure him. Well, let's move on to the one aspect you guys hate, but it's worth talking about because even though Ennio Morricone did the score to The Thing, it feels like a John Carpenter score. So let's talk about John Carpenter.
Absolutely.
John Carpenter scoring his.
John Carpenter is more like
Carpenter.
It wasn't a Freudian slip or a faux pas. John Carpenter. The man can score a movie.
He can.
Starting with Halloween.
That's what I.
Halloween is a memorable score.
For sure.
Yeah, no.
So, but Ennio Morricone apparently wanted a John Carpenter-like score, and it wasn't. Yeah, and he wasn't.
I had to remember
the thumping. That bass, that hypnotic bass.
Alex, of the three films, which is the best score?
I gotta say, Escape from New York.
Wow.
Yeah,
really?
I like it. I do because I think it's just so fitting. I do. It's got I don't know what it is, but it's got John Carpenter's fingerprints all over it.
Yeah,
and that's a good thing. But I like
it as much as Big Trouble.
Well, I don't care what you don't like.
I think you're wrong. I think he did a much better score. I like his Big Trouble in Little China score.
I don't mind it, but he didn't write a worse score. That's not the same thing as him writing a better score for Big Trouble in Little China. Escape from New York is a good score. It's tense and it's used well.
I agree with her, and I think had it not been for Escape from New York, maybe we wouldn't have had that minimalist score for The Thing. Because it's like, I wonder if Morricone watched that movie. Maybe he watched Halloween and said, well, why don't we just do what this guy does? He seems to get it. It's a weird
thing, though, huh? To hire a composer after you've composed films.
And the funny thing is, typical of Hollywood or whatever else, he was nominated for a Razzie for The Thing, for worst score, and yet
Really?
Yes, and then he uses part of that in The Hateful Eight, and he's lauded. And I hated most of the score in The Hateful Eight because it was like, this isn't Morricone. This is
Right.
Well, as we mentioned before, it just isn't a good movie, so nothing about that movie is redeemable.
Okay, really fast. I am baffled that people hated The Thing the way they did because watching it just it's a great film.
I think it was one of those things like at that point.
Remember the movies at the time. E.T.
Yeah.
So E.T.'s sweeping the nation. It's like Titanic and Jack. It really is like Titanic and Jackie Brown.
Yeah, well, you're right. You're right.
I mean, E.T. had swept the nation. Alien had already happened, so it seemed to the critics, it just seemed like another Alien movie. Like, if you look at the critics, and I read through a lot of the reviews, they just dismissed it as an Alien ripoff or John Carpenter just going for the gross factor and with nothing to say. And the way it ends, I felt like, but as I think about it, the movie hasn't left me. I'm like,
it stays.
The movie has an
you,
indelible feel to it, which
it does.
I'd never seen it because it was dismissed at the time. Because that's 82. The summer of 82 is when I really that's the summer I got into movies because of Star Trek 2. So I started following all movies. So Leonard Maltin, all of them, they were all just dismissive of this film, and
But don't you think it's kind of typical? It's like you get that director or you get that actor or you get that type of film that everybody's, at whatever period in time decides this is what we're going to crap on, regardless.
Oh, yeah.
So it was poor John Carpenter's turn, despite the fact that he's, now these same people will probably look back and say, oh, he was a visionary. He was a pioneer.
Well, as a guy who's often right, and I hate to break my arm patting myself on the back. but
go ahead.
Blade Runner, like the films that they crapped on Blade Runner too, and I've told my tale many times of how I walked out of Blade Runner loving it. I imagine I can't imagine in 82 that I would have not been blown away by The Thing. I just think The Thing is scary as bleep.
It is.
That's a really scary movie. I can't imagine I would have thought otherwise. I just don't know. But to dismiss that film as like a ripoff is just like,
no.
Yeah.
No.
But,
merciless on that movie.
Razzies is just actually kind of amazing to me. I think of Razzies as, movies starring Chris Kattan, not The Thing.
Well, before our year-end review, I just want to say, like, The Flash. Again, you heard it here first. I think The Flash is going to raise in stature because I think as I think about it, it's actually a really good movie about our current sort of Gen Z culture. But anyway, I think that's beside the point. I just think critics are often just not looking, and there's another film that everybody just crapped on this year needlessly, and
sure.
I think it happens every year.
Maybe what critics are good for is just sort of expressing the zeitgeist.
They are,
and and for those of us that are a little bit more jaded and right like you are half the time, we know
I've never been wrong.
So why are you my friend then?
I have never been. When it comes to movies, I'm never wrong.
No. But, yeah.
What was the deal with? What were people feeling with Kurt Russell at the time? I have to ask. I don't remember.
He
think
was
about
a second banana.
He
was all like he was not. So again, he was a wannabe Clint Eastwood. He was a wannabe Stallone. He was always sort of the second banana who, like, he is like the tortoise and the hare.
And if you do remember when he was starting to make those movies, I mean, for somebody like me, one of the first things out of people's mouths is somebody like, oh, you mean Dexter Riley?
Right.
All they can think about is all the Disney movies.
Yeah.
And he was always a charming guy. He was always a likable guy. He was one of my heroes growing up. I loved anything with Kurt Russell.
Oh, Disney. But I hated Follow Me Boys. So I had a
that movie meant the world to me. I want you to know.
Of course it did. Fred McMurray, you needed
damn
Fred McMurray
right.
in your life.
Bud, Charlie.
But my point is, I was wired to not like Kurt Russell. So in those days I didn't like Kurt Russell. So the only time the pendulum swung the other way was Big Trouble in Little China. That's where I was like, hey.
I'm just asking what people were thinking at the time, because again, I was 2 years old, or whatever. It didn't come into my consciousness until.
I think it was some of the Disney stuff. I think they were still.
They weren't taking him seriously.
Yeah, you don't take him seriously. So who is this guy?
They didn't take him seriously. He wasn't taken seriously. I don't honestly think he was taken seriously until Tarantino started using him. That's
Which
what
is
I think.
Too bad, because to my mind, he's the Jeff Bridges of. I mean, Jeff Bridges is the Jeff Bridges of his generation, but Kurt Russell is also the Jeff Bridges of his generation.
Kurt Russell should have been Starman. Speaking of Jeff Bridges,
well, there you go.
They were always heaping the praise on Jeff Bridges as being
really
the guy
bad.
who didn't get enough attention. And truthfully, Jeff Bridges didn't get enough attention.
I agree, but I'm saying I think Kurt Russell is similar, especially when I see him now and I see I see what a solid, charismatic, interesting actor he really is.
Mm.
And it doesn't
But do
matter
you
that he's
think?
been in a
Do
bunch
you?
of shitty movies, whatever. So
Do
has Jeff
you?
Bridges.
But do you think
Thunderfoot and
Jeff?
Lightning.
Hold on. Do you think Kurt Russell? And I love Kurt Russell now, but do you think he could pull off Rooster Cogburn and the things that Jeff Bridges has pulled off?
I don't.
No.
But
But
I
there are
don't.
things that Jeff Bridges
But
could
I don't
pull
think
off.
Harrison Ford could either. And I
No.
feel that Harrison
Yeah.
Ford has had a career based on being a lot like Kurt Russell.
Oh, that's a good point. Interesting point.
Interesting.
Jeff
Now,
Bridges
could
is
anyone
an
else
amazing
pull?
actor.
Could anyone else pull off Jack Burton? I don't know.
No.
No.
Well, maybe
No,
Harrison Ford, but
Maybe Harrison Ford, because I
maybe
think
Harrison Ford, but it would take a lot of coaxing because you find out your Harrison Fords are really into how being the hero.
That being
You
the
know?
hero, exactly. You've got to be the buffoon here.
Right.
You've got to be a bit of a buffoon.
Yeah.
And that's why I think Kurt Russell is an interesting blend. And that's why I know I keep talking about his accessories and things like this, but I have to say, I do think John Carpenter has sort of an interesting view of masculinity that Kurt Russell embodies. It's not all
Yeah.
macho,
Yeah.
It really isn't. It's
But
way more interesting.
and the funny thing is he is a guy's guy in many ways.
Hey, could Kurt Russell pull off the Big Lebowski?
Good question.
I think it's it would be different, but
He's got the hair, he's got the beard. If he wants to,
I don't think it would be bad.
I think it would. That would have been an interesting exercise because thinking of him with those White Russians, I think Kurt Russell could have pulled that off.
Looking confused at Jackie Treehorns, I think.
I think Kurt,
getting a coffee cup thrown in his face, he could do it.
I've told you both
He could
this.
do it.
But the reason I love Kurt Russell most of all, above anything else, is the way he was laughing at Jiminy Glick. If he's just laughing uproariously at Jiminy Glick, he couldn't even talk practically.
That's
I
right.
think Kurt Russell's
good
one of these,
point.
Kurt Russell's a real guy. He's a real normal person.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, even I know this is a smaller movie that came out right about the time of Big Trouble in Little China, Best of Times.
Yeah.
With Robin Williams.
Actually, I stand corrected. I saw Best of Times after I saw that, but I was definitely on Kurt Russell's bandwagon after that.
Oh my Lord,
movie.
what a funny role.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he does everything he has to do. He gives room to Robin Williams, and I think actually Kurt Russell's presence probably gave us a more sober, funny Robin Williams performance.
It's Robin Williams' best movie in my mind.
It's one of right up there. It's certainly
I think it's
subdued and hilarious. Subdued and hilarious.
This is a film I've never seen.
Oh my gosh, you got to
do a podcast.
Donald Moffat.
Donald Moffat. Very good. Yeah.
Plays. You've got to see it because he plays Robin Williams' obnoxious father-in-law who just berates Robin Williams throughout the movie.
We'll have to get George on this one. We could do a Bull Durham Best of Times. What's his face? Ron Shelton. Because it's a Ron Shelton movie and it's funny. It's funny.
It actually is funny.
Yeah.
It's got all the right people too. Emmett Walsh.
Right. Well, anyway, we're off.
Anyway, we'll move off.
We're running out of time.
Yeah.
Yes, you gotta go support your kid.
Yeah. So score, we know that. Production design, they're all good. I get it.
So cool, all of them.
You know what I did notice too? Speaking of production design, because I found out that James Cameron did special effects for Escape from New York, and you can draw a line from Escape to New York to Terminator. They have the same look.
I definitely think so.
I really think, in fairness to John Carpenter, he does have a lot of influence. He has influenced a lot of directors.
I see that now, and
I don't think people talk about it enough, and I don't think people take him as seriously as they should. Maybe.
Again, just like Kurt Russell,
I'm a convert.
It's just,
Alex,
definitely.
Roseanne, Caputi, I am a convert now. I think he is his. I was dismissing him as the old stoner because of Escape from L.A. and Vampires.
Okay.
Later
films
are dreadful.
Yes, well,
fine, but again, Martin Scorsese made Kundun or whatever. Anyway.
Okay. No, I agree. Production design, Roseanne, Caputi, go.
Believe it or not, I think The Thing. I think it looks just amazing. Again,
Alex?
as much as I like Escape from New York, I've seen it. I have seen that before. He does it well, but I love The Thing.
I do. I agree, but I got to give it to Big Trouble in Little China because it just captures that moment. And it captures that whimsy that we get in Buckaroo Banzai. Just that oddball world. I like what he did. I love the look of that movie.
I like Escape from New York as a production design.
Okay. Well,
You know why? Because I think it takes something stupid, like what a stupid idea, and it makes it believable.
Hey, okay, like I said before, John Schlesinger was, tearing out his hair over Midnight Cowboy because I'm making a movie about a dishwasher. If you look at it that way, it's a stupid idea, but maybe it's all dumb, but the best directors, the best filmmakers are the ones that make it something,
I agree. But
and maybe more
Escape from New
identifiable.
York, it's indelible. The images and where he ends up in all the apartment buildings and the World Trade Center, it's all fairly indelible in my mind. Like, production design, it is a very strong film.
Yeah.
I can't get over the ping pong table and rec room of The Thing, though.
You got to think about ping pong, or I don't know.
I do.
It's a guy
There's
thing.
something about Wilford Brimley playing ping pong that just. I'm just like,
Without a mustache, no less.
Without a
And no
mustache.
oatmeal.
No oatmeal.
This is as real as it gets, guys.
Man, oh man. Man, oh man.
Okay. All right. Well, now we get in. We can't say best director because who is better, John Carpenter or John Carpenter? John Carpenter. All right. We pretty much said it.
I hope people are talking about what a huge influence he is. I don't know. I don't listen to other people's podcasts. I don't know if he's if he's an elder statesman.
Well, he's obviously his name was above the title immediately. So obviously people took him seriously to the point where we all knew John Carpenter's The Fog, John Carpenter's The Thing, John Carpenter's Big Trouble in Little China. I mean, it's all there. The only one Alex and I were talking about is Christine. He left his name off of
But I wonder
Christine.
if that was really more for Stephen King. And that's still worthy of a watch for all of its craziness. It has some,
I still remember it, and I saw it in high school. So,
Harry Dean Stanton.
You bet.
And Keith Gordon, as I mentioned earlier, chewing the scene like nobody's business.
You betcha.
Well, I think I'm now a convert after being jaded and hipsterish and dismissive. So I now say, he's one of the greats. He is.
I think he is.
He's an American great, and I definitely agree that he influenced James Cameron, for sure. In a lot of ways, not just Terminator,
and more than just that.
Yeah,
I really feel that. Like, I kept thinking about James Cameron while watching. I would say The Thing and Escape from New York, honestly.
But I mean, I wonder if that's what we were reacting to the first time we saw the Terminator and like the scenes in the future, because they really have a lot of the same feel.
Except John Carpenter's are way better. I mean, I have to say that. I think.
Well,
but there was something.
I think they're very similar. I would say way better than the Terminator.
I would. I don't like the Terminator.
I know. But
I just think John Carpenter's a lot more. He has a more fully realized idea of what he's doing in Escape from New York. To me,
I'd agree with that. No, I would. He does. There is a little bit more, weight in his movies. I mean, I enjoy the Terminator.
Than James Cameron?
Yes.
Well, that's interesting.
Oh yes, James Cameron's.
Yes.
Well, James Cameron's movies. Hold on. James Cameron's movies. I think the reason why they stay in my head longer is they do have much more satisfying conclusions. So than James.
By satisfying, you mean they obviously end in a typical
Aliens. Look, I love the end of Aliens. I think Aliens has a brilliant ending. So that's where I think there's a guy who ended his movie well. Where John Carpenter, unfortunately,
let's talk about the end of Titanic. Let's talk about the end of The Abyss. I think John Carpenter ends his stories the way, who else kept popping into my head was Jack London. I think John Carpenter tells a story like Jack London where dude just dies. The fire goes out and he freezes to death, and the dog runs to the nearest camp. To me, that's what John Carpenter's doing. And I don't think
Interesting.
James Cameron in any day is capable of that.
He's not capable of it, but it lends itself to being a more memorable movie.
I don't know though. Would James Cameron have ended a movie like The Thing with the two heroes, so to
I
speak,
like
or at least
that.
the hero?
No,
and we
he
don't
wouldn't.
know, just that we
wouldn't
know
have.
their fates. Yeah.
Yeah, he wouldn't have.
And it's like, I guess we just waited out.
Yeah.
That's how Waiting for Godot should have ended.
Well, again, until Avatar 2, I would have fought you guys tooth and nail, but now I think, okay, maybe you're right. Maybe James Cameron is no John Carpenter.
I thought you were right.
No, I thought...
Whoa! Is it a
No.
first? Is it a first? FFF fans.
I
think
can
that's
admit
fair
when
to
I'm
say
wrong.
that James-
I'm rarely wrong, but I admit
It's
it.
okay,
Maybe
it's okay.
John Carpenter is a better filmmaker than James Cameron.
It would be
think he
interesting
is,
to.
not for now.
It would be interesting in a year or two
John
to visit.
Carpenter would have never done True Lies, though.
No.
But True
I don't know.
Lies, okay. Big Trouble in Little China has a much more rollicking. I mean, in a sense, it's a blueprint for that. If we're
weightless,
talking,
but the action is weightless. Come on, James Cameron's action is much better than John Carpenter's.
James Cameron is very, of course, that's his strength.
No.
Yeah.
I
There's
think
one-
some of the most seamless action
it's a
scenes.
good one. It's a
No,
good one.
I agree.
If,
I think-
I think if James Cameron had done Big Trouble in Little China, the action would have had much more meat. The problem with John Carpenter is it's just not his thing. The action isn't there. It's just
Which is why I like him, because to me, honestly, the characters are, which is something I cannot say for James Cameron.
come on.
No, I
I
will disagree
I'm
there.
coming on. Ripley was already a thing. I kept thinking,
But James
Alien-
Cameron, maybe James
Alien
Cameron
is
took a
only
page
good.
from. Yeah,
No,
but
for-
maybe
but
Aliens
True
takes
Lies,
a page
but for
from
True
The Thing.
Lies,
The Thing, but Aliens characters are very, very good. He took a page from The Thing. I'll say it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
maybe.
his Aliens, he did a great job, and you can't deny that.
I love Aliens. I do. I love Aliens. But I have to say that when I was watching The Thing, I kept thinking, what makes Alien indelible is Ripley. And it's the last scene with Ripley going off. So I think James Cameron inherited Ripley. It's not like Ripley's so great because of James Cameron. I know there's
I disagree. We're gonna have to do the
I
Aliens.
don't think he's okay. I don't think
He
he's capable of it. I have three words for you. Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio.
Fine, but he makes Ripley a much better character in Part 2. That's all
like
James
Rip-
Cameron. That's
I
all
think
James
Ripley
Cameron.
is an amazing character in Alien, where she's
even
much
better
more
in
active,
Aliens.
like McCready.
Yeah, but she becomes a much better character in Aliens 2. I think she does.
Anyway,
All right.
Okay. Well,
All right, but this is
for a
another
future.
debate.
For a future. Yes.
For
For
a
a
future
future.
debate when we do the Alien, we do the James Cameron trilogy. We really should, which is at some point, the Alien. Or I guess Ridley Scott. We just do the 3 Alien movies. Honestly,
Oh God, do we have to do the third one?
I think the third one's
like
worth
the
discussing.
third
The
one.
third
I
one's
guess
worth
so. Well, it is
discussing.
David Fincher, so
It's worth
I'll give it
discussing.
that.
I think it's
It's the
interesting.
fourth one. It's the one with
No, after that.
Resurrection's
Thank you.
bullshit.
Thank you.
After
Yeah,
that.
thank
Aliens
you.
3 is
Yeah, after-
interesting.
Thank you.
After
Okay, no.
Alien 3, they're all just horseshit. Even especially Ridley
I'd have to
Scott's
see the third
versions.
one again. Okay, I saw
Yeah.
it when it came out, and
Give it a chance. I watched it
being a
recently. It's better than you think.
naughty film goer, I dismissed it. So
Yeah.
I'll see it.
All
again.
right. Well,
Stay.
that's it. So I guess we don't need to ask which films we recommended because we've already rated them.
all three of them. All of them.
three.
All of them.
Over
Go
and
see
over.
them.
Yeah.
Enthusiastic.
Study them.
Yes.
I'm going to go
Chew
run out
them.
and buy my copy of Big Trouble in Little China right
All
now.
right.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll talk to you next. Our next show will be the end of the year review, where I'm going to go on and on about The Flash.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Think of your best.
Yeah.
I only have 3 films
I don't think
of
I've
the year
seen
that
everything.
I even
any.
liked.
Oh boy, that's gonna be a hard one for me.
That's
Okay,
tough.
I gotta
All
think
right.
about it.
I don't have any films I really liked this year. So,
That's really tough.
All right.
All right.
All right.
Take
Bye,
care.
everybody.
Bye.
Later. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to Fabulous Film and Friends. Copyright 2023, a Bel Air Films production.